Well, hello, everyone.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining Kemba and I. We've got a special guest on tonight. We are women entrepreneurs, and we absolutely feel that it's so important as women to share with you our knowledge, our 25 plus years of knowledge in real estate. And we want to make sure that you can build wealth through real estate like Kemba and myself has as a business, as business partners, family in business together. And tonight we've got Brine and Tonya Hamilton, who are going to share with you how they have started building wealth through real estate beyond their principal residence. And they're excited to share how, they met with us last year and then, sort of got on to get that done. And now they're closing their first property. So we're excited to share. I mean, it's always, like all kinds of new and, maybe even big hurdles, little hurdles, but it's always exciting still. So, so welcome, Brine, Tonya. Maybe you can just say hi to our audience and let them know a little bit about yourself before we start.
Sure. Thanks for having us, ladies.
Yeah, we're excited.
All right. So I guess, a little bit about us. Tonya and I have been married for over 14 years. And as you kind of alluded to, towards the end of 2021, we ended up making our first purchase for an investment property, which is actually located outside of the province. But,
outside of the province.
But it was a journey, and obviously largely in part to what we learned from yourself and Kemba last year. It was kind of what was the catalyst for us actually doing that. So we were planning on making some type of investment. We hadn't quite figured it out yet, but you had joined us on our podcast. And obviously, one thing led to another. We had a conversation once we were off the air and reached out to you, and that was kind of how we got started.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing, right? It just took you reached out to us, and then it just all spiraled from there. So we're so blessed that we were able to meet you and then see you here today.
That's a wonderful plug for our Secrets to Success course. So I'm so happy for the proof in the pudding. Like, you've actually gone out and done it. So that's amazing. We're very happy for your success, actually.
Thank you. And outside of the province too, not something that, many individuals doing their first investment property would ever venture to do, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting because we were looking. So last year, to us, obviously COVID has had some really down times, but to us, we've also been stuck at home a lot more. We weren't driving our kids here, there, and everywhere to play dates and just everywhere. So we had so much more time. So it was like, we just looked at each other and was like, listen, we can either like sit and watch Netflix every night once the kids are in bed, or we can like just start thinking and getting things done that we typically wouldn't get done. Right. So our thought is, we can't control what's going on outside, but we can control what we want to do. Right. So
mindset.
like that's a big one for us. So we looked and we're like, you know what? The housing market's crazy right now, as everybody knows. So we refinanced our house. We did renovations. And then Brine was like, listen, if we don't go crazy with the renos, like, yes, there's this amount of money, but if you don't spend it all redoing the house, we can have extra and we can use that for our down payment.
Nice.
So that's what we did. We did the renovations here, which we're very happy about. And we came in under budget, and then we had allotted some money for the down payment. Now, actually, it was one of the evenings that we did with you, because we had been looking up and like way up north and stuff like that, like cottages and things, but the prices were even still crazy.
Yeah, in Ontario, it doesn't matter where you went, right?
It's nuts. So then somebody had brought up PEI when we were doing our course with you. And then after, I was like, you know what? Let's start looking in Nova Scotia, because that's where Brine has family in Nova Scotia. He's from there. And even there, once we started looking, because you actually have to purchase somewhere in a big city, one of their bigger cities, for the banks to authorize you at 20% down, right? So Halifax and Dartmouth, that was also quite a bit. So that's how we ended up in St. John, New Brunswick.
That's awesome. St. John's, here we come. It's a great place to start.
Really well. Like it's been doing really well. Like we've heard some really good things about St. John's for sure.
Yeah. So our agent, it all lined up really neat. So down east, the people are very laid back. I really appreciate that about how they do life. But when it comes to business and real estate, like I'm used to people calling us back or emailing us back like within an hour, hours, right? And so Brine had found an agent down there. She's actually from Brampton. Her and her husband moved there, and she was on the ball, fellow Ontarian.
Yeah, so she was the one person who responded pretty quickly. Yeah, and had good communication throughout the process. So I just decided, okay, this is who I'm going to work with, because in the beginning I was kind of taking on the heavier lift of trying to go through everything and viewing all these properties. And then towards the end of it, Tonya was the one who actually took the ball and kept it moving with the last one.
Yeah, because by that point, the renovations at the house had been done. Like there was a lot going on from May to July, like renovating our house. Brine was looking. And then at that point, we had lost 2 offers just because when we did the inspection, there was going to be thousands.
Correction, we didn't lose them. We backed out of them because of problems that were uncovered in the inspection. So we decided not to pursue anything.
I remember we kind of checked in with you around that time, and it was like, it was doldrums. We were like, what's going on?
I know.
What happened? And so what happened with those ones? Like how did that process work out for you?
Yeah. So, you do the inspection, and for me personally, I got all excited and all that kind of stuff. And then they come back like, okay, there's water damage is a big thing down there, obviously, right? I would say more than here. And so it was just going to be a ton of water fixing for that. Yeah. But also,
the one prior to that, it was structural problems. So
obviously
you're not going to go in with that.
Yeah. And to try to find a contractor down there right now is like next to impossible. Yeah. So we closed November 30th, and our agent, I think she told me there were like 40 closings that day in St. John.
Wow.
So what's happening is either people from Ontario are moving there to just live, or our contractor was telling me all the houses he's worked on within the last like couple months have been rental properties from people in Ontario.
Okay. Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
I have heard more people, even someone I spoke to today on the phone, talking about buying, not in Nova Scotia, but in New Brunswick, right?
Yeah.
And finding that the prices are just amazing. And it's like buying mansions there.
Oh, goodness.
For less than $500,000, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And when we had put things on hold, compared to in September, when we started looking again, I had noticed some of the prices already had gone up. So then it was one of those like, listen, if we're going to do it, let's just jump on it now, because if we wait till the spring, the prices are going to be higher. And then, knowing you could have got it for cheaper, you're going to kick yourself. Right. Yeah. So down there,
or it's going to feel overpriced even by then.
Right. Right. Because like they were starting to have bidding wars, and our agent's like, we don't have bidding wars here. Like we don't. So just things like that. So the other thing that's neat is the purchase price is fairly reasonable, but then you can get a good amount of money for rent. So that's where, so
there's a nice balance, right?
Exactly. And it's 100% occupancy down there, right?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Like,
so vacancy rate is very low, which is, yes. So that means that you're likely to pretty much keep it tenanted all the time.
Yeah. And the thing is, down there, people rent for a very long time. So we have a duplex. We kept the people upstairs. They've been there for 4.5 years, and they mow the lawn, they shovel, they do all that.
You put up decorations at Christmas time.
Yeah. They take care of it like it's their own. So we said, okay, those tenants can stay. Now there was a lady with like 4 kids and 3 dogs and like just a whole slew. And we're like, that unit was a disaster. So we did ask that they be vacated before we purchase. And then we've spent the last month getting that unit renovated and ready to go.
In all fairness, she was leaving. We didn't actually have to really ask. It just, the timelines worked out well. Her last day. Her last day was good.
Yeah.
But it sometimes that timing and that working out is kind of in your favor, right?
For sure.
Sounds like you're much happier with them gone, Tonya.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, the thing is, as far as in terms of anything that we had to, any repairs that we had to make, anything that was internal was within that unit. So it just worked out well where we could come in and, give that one a bit of a facelift and also, do all of the outstanding stuff with nobody there. So it's just a lot easiure.
And then in turn rent it for more.
Yeah.
So
And it was very easy to find a renter as well, a good renter with, where I think they're gonna work out well with the renters upstairs because it's a couple who's quiet and it's basically the same thing downstairs. So they're gonna be happy that they don't have 4 kids running around her and 3 dogs.
It makes such a difference that you sort of marry the, the tenant profile in the units so that you have less disputes and individuals not getting along, right?
Yeah. I've already noticed the less text messages from them, the better.
Yes.
Right. So the other, I just lost my train of thought. What was I gonna say?
Well, I think what's neat too is to share with our listeners how feasible it is for you. Like, did you actually go to the province to look at these units or to even tenant or, sort of explain that process too? Because I think that sometimes people don't understand how to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So we definitely didn't leave the province to check out these properties. We did everything virtually. So whether it was FaceTime or what have you with the agent that we were working with, it was typically FaceTime but she would take us through the unit. And she also, she was really good about giving us very direct feedback if I had a question, within the limitations of what she could say, right? But yeah,
she was more representing you though, no? When
Correct.
you were, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, so she was really helpful in that sense. She connected us with some people in St. John when we, first when we were looking for a home inspector, and then when we were looking at contractors to get quotes for things, and so she was really good in that sense. But no, we didn't actually go there. We did everything through FaceTime. We were able to get a good idea of what the properties were, and we found a good home inspector as well. So that's helpful because he was really thorough in finding things. And giving us detailed reports of what needed to be done within the properties. So that was a huge piece. But
and that inspection you're speaking of, that came prior to closing, right? So that
for sure.
So that even in the event that I think you said the other 2 deals didn't pan out because of the inspections, right? And so the inspection in this last scenario was enough, like you were satisfied with what needed to be done to either amend the price or to move forward and do the renos yourself after.
Yeah, and that's exactly it.
And we talk about this a lot, even, coming up and in the past, I'm sure we chatted with you, but your network makes a difference, right? So you found somebody you could trust as a partner in your realtor. You had such a good, sure feeling about her and what service she could do and how she was honest with you and so on. And she was looking out for your best interest. So that partner, then all the other partners you sort of connected with. So your network ended up expanding, not just us, you got all these other great relationships you've now made out there that you can now rely on and build their businesses too, because you're spending money in their province and helping to grow their business. So that's really good.
And what do you like? I think it's interesting because I'm not that well versed about the leasing agreement out in Nova Scotia, but did you find that process with your realtor or with yourself tenanting to that in the second unit, how was that?
So it's interesting because down there, a lot of tenants do month to month, which we were personally fine with, because it's like, that's not going to be an issue if we have to, evict somebody. The other thing is that a lot of them pay bi-weekly. So again, the tenant upstairs was like, okay, we pay bi-weekly. We've done for the last 4 years. I'm like, I'm fine with that, because again, you can stay on top of everything, right? Now
it makes sense for them too. And even if that's how they get paid. Right.
Exactly. And I mean, like, we pay our mortgage bi-weekly. I get it. So I like it as well. Now, it was funny because last week we were at my brother's cottage, and both of my brothers have multiple properties, and I was doing up the agreement. And they sent me some documents of like their tenant agreements and leases down here. And I looked and I'm like, I can't ask these guys in New Brunswick. You can't get away with asking them, their place of employment, like where they work, their salary and stuff like that. As I researched, it's like an agreement and it's very, very straightforward. Yeah. So that's another thing I've learned is that as a landlord, you actually have a lot more rights in Ontario down there. So
you have a lot more rights in New Brunswick than in Ontario.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was saying there's not a lot of places you could have less rights as a landlord.
No. Yeah. So way less.
Okay, so it's better. I guess the relationship is more equitable from landlord and tenant in New Brunswick versus here, where there's more weight towards the tenant in
right.
Okay, that's good. And so you got an agreement. They don't have a standard agreement out there. You kind of created what you needed to create.
Yeah, so I went online and St. John does have one. So I just went with that. And then I added some other stuff. So down there, they don't actually word it first and last month's rent. They say first month and a deposit. So they have like a renter's tribunal where the tenant can actually pay the deposit to them and they hold it for you. If you don't trust your landlord or things like that, then if and when it's needed, the landlord and the tenant go to that tribunal and they collect the money, whether it's to fix property or when that tenant leaves, then they get their money back. So there is that option. So that part is handy. And then our tenants who moved in, they just gave the deposit to us. So.
And the other interesting thing too, our tenants that were already there, they had like a kind of a standard lease card that they had filled out. So that was the documentation we had. So it's a lot different than in Ontario. Even the other places that we had looked at, one of them, they didn't have any agreements at all. People had been there for a long time. And it was just kind of like a handshake thing, which is, from what I'm told, it's fairly common there. So there's not nearly as much documentation.
Yeah.
We have a 18 page lease that we do have.
But and that's what the stuff that my brother sent me, I was like, that's not gonna fly. I'm gonna have to come up with something else. So
what was ours, 2 pages?
Formerly, prior to 2017, I just had a 1-pager here in Ontario. And it was only really with the new requirements that they made the standard lease that, I mean, honestly, like it's a book.
Yeah.
It's a little over the top, but It's similar in Alberta though too. We do have quite a detailed document, but it's not a standardized lease. It's flexible how you implement one, as long as there is a lease and it has certain guidelines in it. It's not standard.
So can I ask, I don't know whether we touched on this, but like what, aside from sort of looking, where you could invest and the prices, once you found the price points that you were comfortable with, what was your decision to say, yes, I'm going to do St. John's? Like, what did you look up? How did you figure out, I think I can invest in St. John's and I'm happy and it's going to be a good investment?
So first we looked at where we could actually do 20% down, which was St. John, Edmundston, and Moncton. We looked at the properties that were available there. There's a lot more selection in St. John, and just given like what was kind of close by, figured it would be easier to rent out, and the prices. So those things all factored in. But I had actually, when we first started, I had actually reached out to agents in all of the cities looking at different properties. And the thing that made it really stand out for me was the agent that we were working with in St. John. So I just figured that was where if we're going to be able to get a deal done, it's going to be there. So again, a lot of it just came down to having a really good agent there. And, either way, it didn't matter to me what city it was in, because either way, it's a 16 hour drive if we're going to actually drive there. So that was kind of irrelevant at that point. But I guess it was a big part of it was the agent we were working with.
Nice. And can I ask, like, your numbers, how did they work out? Like, do you feel like this is something that you would do again? I think it, from your smiles and happiness, I would say yes. Like what do you think? Like, did your numbers work out? Are you cash flowing, and how does that look?
Yeah, so the really neat thing about this property, and it's funny, we had actually looked at it in August, right when we were nearing the end of our renovations, and we were like, you know what, it's a lot. Like there's a lot going on right now. So we left it. She showed it to us. And then when we went back in September, it was still listed because a couple of the offers fell through with financing. Anyways, when she showed us and we were talking again, she goes, just a reminder, this is 2 lots. So we have the duplex, which before Brine really wanted a triplex, obviously for the cash flow, right?
Multiple units.
Yeah. But she said, this is actually 2 lots. So later you can look at the city and see about building another property on the second lot. So that was a big thing for us. Now so the house was listed for $199. We got it for $190 because we knew, like, just from seeing the work that needed to be done, we were going to have to probably put around $10,000 in. So if you break it down, the people upstairs, they're paying $800 a month for rent. Now we could actually get it higher, but we're like, you know what, as first time landlords, we have secure tenants. Let's just leave it. And we don't need to worry about that. And then the rent for the main floor now has gone up to $1,200. So once you pay your mortgage, which is like $530 a month, right? and your land tax, which is not that high, and insurance, our passive income is in between like $8,000 to $1,000 a month.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say it's passive yet, but it's
you still have to do a little bit of work at the front end, right?
Yes.
But eventually.
And I will say, when you buy property, it's not really that passive. Like if you wanted to be passive, you would be handing it over to someone else who'd be doing all what you're doing.
True.
And then you'd just be getting a return on that money. That's passive. What you're doing is actively investing in real estate, which is amazing. And look at the returns you're getting. So that's
yeah, because you are, like Tonya said, I think it's great. What you meant is that you're going to be getting cash flow, which is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
You're also, as an active investor, you actually get mortgage pay down, you'll get appreciation, and there's just like, you improve the value of one unit already. And so improve the value of the whole property. So already you've added value. And so there's so many ways to earn income, including the cash flow. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
$800+ in your pocket, that's amazing. How many times over do you want to do this? How many more of these do you need to either retire Brine or cut out your daycare business?
Right. No, it's so true. And it's interesting. My brother joked, he's like, okay, well, there's one, you need 3 more to cover all the kids, right? Because they have multiple, and it's true. And especially, I mean, I'm not a professional in this field at all, but just from seeing the way the market is going, when you sit back, you do get concerned about generations to come. Like, how are our kids going to come up with a deposit for this kind of stuff, 10, 15 years down the line? So, I mean, it's not all going to be for them, but you want to have it available for whatever comes down the line.
Yeah, and the likelihood that it will be for them is great. I think that some of it will help take care of you and Brine into likely your retirement years. But because real estate can transcend from and transfer to one generation to the next and the next, you don't have to sell this property.
Exactly.
You can use it. The one that you're in right now as your principal residence can be kept in the family, and so can this one, and the others that you add. So I do think it's ideally, in my case, I see it all for my family. But I agree with you. I want to enjoy my life too while I'm here. And that's what I do real estate for as well.
Yeah. And what you're doing is that even if you use some of that money to live, because it's an income generating property, that income will pay down and pay down and pay down. And if you pull out of it again, it'll continue to pay down and pay down and pay down, right? That's the whole concept of it. And as you become more and more enamored with real estate investing, because you're like, I want the next one, I want to try it again. And you get more proficient, right? You get more proficient because you've done one. Okay, now you get some systems in place to make it easier to manage the taxes, the this, the that, your reporting, all that. And it starts to get you can do one for each child, and then one for Brine and one for Tonya, and then so that's excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, obviously it's a lot of work. I was just saying to Brine, I'm like, I guess I can add, we both can add, but I have taken on the property management role. It just worked out that way. Right. And I mean, I think that's one of those things you got to know what you're good at and pass what you're not so good at off to your partner. Right. So I have more time. I have that flexibility in the day to be calling and looking up contractors and different things like that, or calling references. So it sort of just fell on me. And then halfway through, I'm like, oh my word, we're doing like a full unit renovation and we have never been in this home. And like the contractor, he was great. So I called his references. I said, anytime you go to the store to buy the items, I would like to pay via credit card. And then obviously get my receipts because, hey, I wanted my points from my credit card, right?
Absolutely.
You got to be making money all the time. We get dollars from using our credit card. So then there was that. And then at the end of pretty much any day he was working there, he would send me pictures of what he had worked on. And
I can't wait to see some of them.
Yeah. And, and he actually had been a property manager for like the last 15 years. So he taught me stuff because I said, oh, we need a closet door. And he said, no, you're not going to get a closet door. Those accordion ones, they fall off all the time. And then they're going to call you and then you're going to have to call somebody to fix it. He goes, they looked at the property and there was no door. They can put like a rod and some nice curtains and call it a day. I'm like,
absolutely
right. They can. So he actually, I was my soundboard. If I had questions, I would just ask him and he would tell me. So I obviously got the vibe. He wasn't trying to rip us off. He made money, which is great in this economy. You got to be making money, but guess what? I'll use him again. And
recommend him because who knows, we might buy out there and we'll need his services.
I like the idea of a $500 mortgage payment.
Yeah,
I like it. That reminds me of back in the day when I bought my very first property in Mississauga. It was like, the amount of money that I spent on that mortgage was like equivalent to a room rental today in Brampton. It's like $600-700. I'm like,
can't even get a room rental for that now.
So no, well, it's very expensive in Brampton. So like when you say $800 for one unit, I'm like, that's a room here,
right?
Yeah,
I know. And I mean, I'm sure people, if you're listening, you might think, oh my word, you guys are crazy. Like for not even, going down there. But again, I think when you feel that nobody's trying to rip you off and stuff like that, you obviously have to have that connection, I think.
Yeah.
But we were both comfortable and confident with the decision we made. And we looked at each other, I'm sure a couple times, and we're like, worst case, if it's a flop, we sell it. Like worst case scenario,
so to make some turn it over.
Yeah.
So you have a plan B. So you know that, you know what the worst case scenario would be and you're prepared for that.
Right.
So that's good. That's good. Some people go in thinking, I can't. And okay, what's the worst case? Let's do it.
Yeah.
If the worst case is too much for you, okay, don't do it.
Exactly.
I feel, Kemba, we've bought a number of times and never been in the province, never been to the city, and it's been successful. I think that getting, like you said, trusted experts that know their stuff, that not just helps you with their skill set, but also refers you to more trusted experts, and make you feel confident that they're all doing it in your best interest, and they're making, because it's not like they're not getting paid, they're getting paid as well. So it's a win-win for everyone, and I think that's awesome. So kudos to both of you for you set out last year to do this, and you accomplished it last year as well, and out of the province, which I know that you had said at the outset was not what you thought you do.
Yeah.
So this is great. And now you're even property managers. And
I'm
pretty sure that when we talked about you getting property out of the province, you thought that you would get someone to property manage, right? But you can do it at a distance as well.
Yeah. And I think we looked at, having the tenants that do this stuff, and then worst case scenario, it's a flight away. And that was the other thing about St. John, because the airport's there. So if Brine has to fly down there, it's not.
And I'm sure you looked into the price of flights so that it's not terribly expensive, right?
Yeah, it's all, it's all way more practical than paying somebody every month and not having to use them.
Yes.
So,
And I mean, I hope you remember this from the course, but all that cash flow you're making, if you even keep 50% of it in an account until you've built up a reserve, then when that flight comes up, you're not like, oh, where am I getting this from?
exactly.
It's all there, it's ready. If when the roof comes up, it's all there, it's ready. You're not like feeling the stress of, wow, I have this additional responsibility, I have to come up with this money. It's there. It helps take care of itself and so on. So that's excellent. Amazing.
Awesome.
I'm like, I feel like I'm proud that we were able to help you, but you guys are amazing in and of yourselves. Like you just had your, what is it, 45 episodes of, Disrupt the Everyday. You have a home renovation going, you have 4 kids.
Yeah, one here in Ontario and one there. It's like,
like the way you guys manage and just use each other as, the strengths each other has. And, I really admire what you've been able to do and how you guys work together. I want to say to you that I'm really happy and proud to know you. And I'm just happy that you guys have been able to do that. So it's amazing. It's good.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And eventually, I mean, to be honest, the listeners don't know, we have never met live.
Yeah.
So eventually we're going to be able to hug you guys and say, we're so proud in person, and maybe even make a trip to this amazing property. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think this is awesome.
Yeah.
So congratulations. And, let's do it again. Let's, see you, make another, and I mean, you're already there in St. John, so you could easily add to your portfolio and do it there.
There's actually a fourplex right now that is for sale on the same street that I was just looking at.
Oh my goodness.
But no, the plan long term is.
Are you looking for investors?
Are you considering that then, Brine, the fourplex?
Not right now. I think it's too early. Like, we're still just getting everything settled with this one. Our tenants technically haven't even moved in yet. They move in next week. But but no, that is the plan moving forward, is to continue to grow our portfolio.
Yes. Because one of the things that I like too is that I'm pretty sure that you're going to learn soon is that you can use the properties to qualify as well. If that property is a fourplex that has been generating income, it may very well, and it has an income, a cash flow, then, it's something that we can always make happen, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. And one other thing that I learned that I didn't know about is when it came back to getting the final approval from the bank, and they received, so they sent somebody else out as well separately for the inspection,
because they wanted, right? The appraisal.
For the appraisal. But and it also turned into, I guess it was an inspection almost, because they want to make sure that you're not going to be slumlords, I guess, right? They want to make sure that if there's any work that needs to be done, so they would hold the funds until you've done the work. I didn't know about this. That was something I learned. So we knew when we got the inspection done, the deck. So a lot of the houses out there are,
well, especially the multi-unit ones, they have a deck that will go up to, between the different units.
Yes.
Okay.
So we knew just from seeing the pictures that like the cement blocks and stuff in the ground, they were looking pretty sketchy. So they had come back and said, listen, we're going to approve the mortgage, but we're going to deduct that money until you've shown that you've got it fixed.
Yeah. So we had to get quotes, and then, for the quote amount that we sent them, that's what they withheld until we got the repair.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we got the repairs done right away, and we sent the receipt, and we got the money within like 2 days. Yeah. So it was just something, again, I've never, I didn't know.
And we found the contractor that we have working there. He did it for about less than a third of the price of the actual quote, and did a really good job, and sent pictures that the bank was happy with. So we got those funds released and continued doing the rest of the work that we were looking at doing there. Now, originally too, because we're doing renovations here, I started doing some of the work. So I was doing our floors and doing baseboards and stuff like that. And my plan was to go there and actually do this, but the price that we were able to get our contractor to do this for, it didn't make sense for me to drive there with all my tools and purchase some of these things, because it was, he's a professional. He can get it done quicker than I can. It was just the ROI on having him do it was a lot higher than having me do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to recognize too that if you try to take on too much, it makes the process of owning real estate more
daunting.
It makes it daunting, right? It makes it more work, and then it makes you feel like, wow, I can't do this. It's too much. You know, I mean, Brine, imagine you spending like 3 weeks out there trying to do a floor, and you know, you have your life back here, and maybe you may not spend that long, but I just mean it'll take up your time and resources and just your mental energy. So it's great you sort of saw that and you made the decision to just, you know, get somebody to do it.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, I have a full-time job. It's not as if I can just drop everything and go do this stuff. You know, obviously I have vacation time I can use, but who wants to use their vacation time doing that kind of stuff, right? And again, it's just having to navigate all that too. So no, it definitely made sense to just have someone who is able to do a good job. You know, we were able to validate that and you know, just vet their work. So it was just a big headache and a big weight off your shoulders.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good. So I guess maybe we can take a look at Kemba's maybe some learnings, maybe like things that you can pass on to the next person, like maybe 3 or so tips on what you would recommend for someone who is looking.
Starting with taking our course, but go on. Yes, go on.
Yeah, so that's one.
Because are we right that was part of what helped you?
Yeah, that was just right there. That's a given.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just buying, but buying out of the province, right? Which was, I think that's a pretty big deal for most people to do that. But absolutely good. Thank you, Kemba, for helping them with that one. But no, yes, 3 maybe tips or learning experiences that you feel that the next individual could benefit from when they go to maybe make their first purchase or their first purchase outside of the province.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So first, I'll just quickly recap what we did that was helpful, and then give a couple of other things. But first, so obviously we found a good realtor. That was key. Someone that we had a good working relationship with. You know, building that network based on that. You kind of alluded to that. You know, just again, building that network, building that team, if you will, that's going to support you there. And then just making sure that, you know, I guess we say in real estate all the time, location. So, you know, finding the location that's going to be right. And for us too, like when we went into it, our thinking was we want a place where we're going to be able to purchase multiple properties if, you know, if that's going to be the route that we go. Now, some of the things I would say just for anybody who's thinking that, I want to do this and they're just getting started. One thing I'll say is just be prepared to look at a lot of places, right? So even for the 3 places that we put in offers for every place that we actually put an offer in for, we probably looked at least 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least I did early on in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, anybody who's doing this as a couple, you kind of alluded to this as well. Just make sure that you're leveraging each other's strengths. Like in the beginning, it was me who was doing all the searching. Things kind of picked up at work. We had decided for a time that we weren't. After the second one, we decided, okay, you know what, maybe we're not going to do this. And then Tonya got thinking, I was like, okay, you know what, let's take another look. And then the property that we ended up buying, it was the last property that we had looked at. It was right after we had just had the second one fall through, and there was an offer in on it. My agent had, or you know, we kind of got the heads up that it you know, it might be a good time to put an offer in, but we just decided not to. But then when we saw that it was still on the market a few weeks later, we were like, okay, let's find out what's happening. So when we reached out and you know, it was still on the market, so we actually put an offer in and kind of things went from there. But yeah, so just be willing to be flexible, because that wasn't part of the original plan either. And then what would you share?
I would share that, you know what, you're gonna have to fork out some money before you get a return, right? So you got to put that in the budget. I remember after we we backed out of the first house, I messaged my brother and I'm like, oh my word, we just spent like $1,000, you know, $800 for the inspection. And then what was the other thing we had to, I guess the appraisal. And
Yes.
he's like, he goes, I did that like 4 times before I got my first one. So pretty much like this is part of it, right?
Yeah.
So okay,
I
thanks
mean,
for
it
telling
saves
me.
you a lot more money in the long
Oh, yeah.
term, right?
For sure, exactly. So
Exactly.
just
Yeah,
knowing,
I'd rather be at the $1,000 and buy have a property that
A dud,
has-
something
Yeah.
that costs you time and time and time again.
Structural
Exactly.
problems was what you found. Like seriously,
yeah,
who
yeah,
who
oh
wants
yeah,
to do that, right? So
exactly.
I mean, unless
So
that's you're planning to rebuild the whole place, right? So
which wasn't the plan.
Yeah. So pretty much that, you know, you do have to put that in your budget. And then just knowing that some of these, depending on what your actual budget is, you are going to also have to invest in like the renos and stuff if you want to see the best return.
Especially on a resale, right?
Yes.
You're not, the resale properties often require, especially because you knew doing the renos could give you an improved rent,
Right.
which is more long-term, right? So
Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's an investment. And I'll quote Grant Cardone. I heard him say this, it really put in perspective for me, but you know, a bad investment is better than a good spend any day. Because you know, on an investment you do still have a chance to make that return, even if it starts off bad or if you end up dumping a little bit of money into it, especially with real estate. But if you just spend the money, it's gone. Right.
yes.
So
yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So for us, you know, we had budgeted, okay, the 10,000, but then that will be made back within the year. So,
Absolutely.
you know, you do have to give a little to get. And that I think is a big one. But also my other one would be researching the area. So yes, we wanted St. John, but then also researching the areas. Our agent was helpful to be like, yeah, you're not going to check this place out. It's not a great area. Or, okay, I'm going to take you here, but this is what you can expect. So when she said here, okay, yeah, there's work that has to be done, but honestly, guys, this is like a beautiful part of the city. This is like a nice middle class area, schools, parks, like all that kind of stuff is close by. So when you have somebody who lives in a city telling you that, and then you take it upon yourself to do even more research, that's a big one too.
Awesome. Very, very good tips. It's true. Everything you said, very true.
Yes. So awesome. I think I can't imagine that anyone that's going to listen to this podcast can't see huge value in you know, your experiences and wanting to endeavor as well to buy outside of Ontario, right? Because you said you were going pretty far north and still finding very expensive properties. And here it was for under 100, under 200,000, you were able to buy an amazing property that's cash flowing. So I just, that's an investor's dream, right? Is to find more of those types of properties. And so, especially for someone doing their first investment, right?
For sure.
So, yeah.
Well, guys, it was awesome as always having a chat with you, and hopefully we can connect again sometime later on in the year. You know, when you're seasoned investors and you're like, you know, have 2 and 3, you know, properties attached to you, and you know, just where you're going to take it. We'd love to sort of keep in touch with you and see your progress and congratulate you every time. So for sure. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We love having you listen to us, join us for Keen on You, and tune in again.
Yeah, and we love to hear from you all the time. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, our website, and DM, you know, send us a message, ask us your questions. I mean, we love to, as investors, you know, help you win in the real estate investing world. And so we look forward to hearing more stories like Brine and Tonya's from you.
Okay.
Thanks, ladies.